foster care system while I was in CPS's custody, some of the things that the people that had control and power abused and used their power to their advantages, and some of the wrongdoings that I experienced in foster care while I was in their custody, and it caused the trauma. And that's what led to those diagnoses. In addition to that, during the time that I was in the custody and care of Wilson County Department of Social Services, they never gave me any type of assistance as far as counseling and things of that nature to correct some of the trauma that I experienced, which there are programs that are out there, and they did receive government funding. They applied for the funding, and there was some misusages of the funding because the state is wondering why I never received the services that the government paid them.
Right. The investigator did find that the state received funds for her to receive certain type of services when she was a foster child that was very odd to find that she never received those services, even though they received the funding for her, but she never received the services. So we're seeing what I would consider fraud. You're asking for funds to administer services to children, but you're not giving the children the actual services. So different things that we're seeing there. But Nikki, I would like to ask you about your son. Your son is currently one of your sons, and particularly, I believe,
Jeremiah.
I just want to make sure. Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I have heard from not just yourself, but others who know Jeremiah, that he is a gifted young man, an anointed, highly anointed young man. And sometimes children who are gifted and talented, they can talk a lot or be very active. And instead of understanding his gifts and his talents and nurturing that, they've put him on high dose medication. Whereas he used to be active in playing drums. I'll let you explain that as his talent, because only you can. But the main concern is his reporting of the neglect or abuse while he's been in foster care. And I know this is hard, but they are denying an investigation because they are having to, and first of all, they denied investigation because they would have to investigate themselves. And when we requested that an outside agency investigate, they stopped the investigation, citing she has a lawsuit. Nikki is an indigent. She's poor. She cannot afford a lawyer. She does not have a lawsuit. But the minute they said she had a lawsuit, the investigation into the child's abuse was closed. So I was going to let Nikki talk a little bit about that, his talents, and how you guys were trying to get an investigation and where that has gone.
Jeremiah, as you stated before, is highly anointed, very gifted. He's been prophesied over throughout his childhood as well as during my pregnancy, and it has come to pass. His first performance was at a gospel show at Stewart's Theater in Harnett County when he was 2. When I say he plays the drums, he does not play them. It's as if he's had lessons or something, and I've never been able to afford those. But he is something awesome, and he sings and makes up songs to Jesus. First, if I may, I want to touch bases on what the outcome was of him reporting the abuse. he was told that if he continued to tell us what goes on in that home, that he would guarantee that he would never see us again.
So when he was trying to report it, he was told what?
That he would never see us again.
Who is us?
Me, my sister, other siblings, his sisters, the two oldest ones that come with me to the visitations, and other family, various family members along with his father. So he would catch himself prior to talking about anything that happened and say, oh, no, if I say something, I won't be able to see you guys anymore. And he'll quickly change the subject. And for a 5-year-old, that is very awkward. And so the very last time that he decided to mention, he mentioned it, as a matter of fact, not to myself, but to the social worker on our way out of the visitation. And he stopped her and said, but I can't go back there because when her punched me in my stomach, and I told her I was going to tell my mama, she said she'll beat my mommy up. I got to go home with my mama. And during
Who did he tell this to that day?
Dolores Devereaux, the social worker. And a few days later, she took him in the other room that particular afternoon, and she said to him, well, you do know if you leave that foster home, you're still not going back to your mom. We'll put you in a place that's worse. And then afterwards, I received a letter in the mail, along with a couple of other reasons. They didn't want to rearrange my schedule for visitations around my work schedule, and I was working and going to school and things of that nature, and working on towards the goals that I had set in order for you.
So they wouldn't accommodate your work schedule. Now you had a job, got a job, but they kept your visitations at a time that was too hard for you to get there on time, and then if you didn't get there on time, they wrote you up for that, even though you're telling them ahead of time what your work schedule is, and they would not accommodate you.
They refused to. She said there's absolutely no way that she was willing to work around my work schedule. The schedule will be sought when she wanted it to be sought, regardless of what I had to do. So it left me with the option of either quitting school and stop working in order to see my children, or continue to work to pay the child support and not see my children at all. So it was other things in addition to that. But the very last time he reported abuse, I did receive a letter in the mail that states that our visitation had been illegally, without a court order, without a judge signature to it. They had taken away our visitations. They were terminated by the agency made a decision based on that worker.
So what you're saying is that typically when visitations are terminated, the typical process, unless there's imminent danger, I suppose, is that you go to court and the judge makes the decision. But they had not gotten to court and they had stopped visitations. But along with the fact that your son had been reporting abuse, they tried to make it into your prayers in court. Instead of bringing up the fact that your child had been abused, they tried to blame you in court because you were so spooky for pleading the blood over your children. And they said the blood is not age appropriate. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. As my attorney at the time told you, we all found it very bizarre that they not once did they mention the real reason that they had terminated the visitations. They avoid that as a whole, if even talking about the abuse. And their only argument was that she says things like the blood of Jesus, and they stretched it out to make it sound so spooky. And do you think it's age appropriate to say the blood of Jesus to children? And I mean, they mocked me while I was on the stand and made me feel like I was just a bad person. And the kids called him Daddy God. And I mean, well, I didn't teach him that, but when he says to me, why do we say our Father? And I break it down to him that Jesus is our Father and his Father is God. He says, so I can call him Daddy God. So I have two daddies. I have my daddy Eugene, and I have Daddy God. And what was I supposed to say? No, you better not call him Daddy. That is his father, his rightful father.
So here it is. Your visitations are taken. You're reporting abuse. Your son is reporting abuse. You're there seeing your son report abuse. And instead of removing your son from the home, they say, well, we'll just place you in another home. You're not going home to your mother. Now, the fact of the matter is I was able to look through Nikki's documentation and find that they said that the reason why they were not going to move forward with the investigation was because they said that she was lying. It literally says she was lying and trying to sabotage the foster care situation. So they refused to investigate for 2 years the allegations of abuse of this child. Now, the allegations have not been investigated properly as of this day. Right now, Nikima's son, Jeremiah, the prophet, which all her children have biblical names, we still have not been able to receive any help to get this child help, to have anyone even go over there to talk to this child. Simply ask this child about his reports of abuse. They are stopping this child from being able to report it. And they're stopping this child from being able to go on the record. This is how old is he now?
He's 6.
This is a 6-year-old young man who has reported being abused in a foster home. And just because their mother is in a CPS battle, they will not investigate themselves. And right now, we have no one that we have been able to call to move forward. This child is still in his home. Today, what we're doing is we're reporting what's going on to you so that, first of all, if you are in the same situation, you know you're not alone. You're more than welcome to give me a call, especially if you live in North Carolina. The next one is to ask for help. There are no attorneys that seem to be willing to fight the government because they're seeing it as a losing battle or a sticky situation. But we believe that this is the situation that God is calling an attorney to. We have to go into the trenches. We cannot do it for the money. We have to do it for justice. We have to do it because it is right. What is happening to Nikima is happening to millions or hundreds of thousands of African American children and families across this nation. Minorities, Hispanics as well. Poor people, white poor people, black poor people, Hispanic poor people, but disproportionately poor African Americans. Now, we will take the phone calls of any race. You don't have to be poor. That if CPS has done anything to stop your child from being able to report abuse, we want to hear about that. But moreover, we need your support. We need to try to find a way to get money to get Nikki a private attorney, because